Hi, my name is Todd Leonard.
And my name is Herb Montgomery, and we're just talking.
Thanks for taking a moment to click the like button, the subscribe button, and even though I can't find it when I go on the YouTube page, there should be a bell icon somewhere that you can click to have our show remind you when a new episode drops. So thanks for doing that as well.
So, Todd and I are recording at a different time of day this week. Plus, we have daylight savings time, and the lighting is all wrong. It's all wonky. So, bear with us over the next couple of weeks. We'll get this time change and all the lighting fixed. I think we got shadows and lighting issues, and who knows what else we got going on tonight. And my camera keeps freezing. So, fingers crossed, this
I've
is
got
going
on
to
a pink
work.
shirt. What is that? What the heck is that? I don't know why. What the?
Are
I
you
don't
wearing a
know.
pink shirt?
Well, at least that's what it looks like in the lighting. So, no, I am wearing a pink shirt, but
Okay.
that's probably because of daylight savings time in some way, shape, or form. Anyway,
Happy Easter, Todd.
thank you.
A month early.
A month early. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm daylight savings time threw me off, and I think we're already at Easter. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
should be
like it.
wearing
I'll go
something
with
more
that.
purple. I should be wearing dark Lenten colors, and I'm wearing Easter colors. What's
Sackcloth and ashes.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Next week. We've always got next week.
All right, we'll work on it.
So if you're new to this channel, each week Todd and I take a moment to talk about the upcoming weekend's lectionary reading from the Gospels. And our goal is to always talk about those passages in the context of love and inclusion and social justice. And our hope is that our talking will be just talking, as in justice, but that also something that is said during this time as we go back and forth would inspire you alongside of us to do more than just talking. So, Todd, what passage are we looking at this week?
We are in Luke chapter 13, just four verses, 31 through 35.
So you're way more familiar. You've had a longer, um, you've had more track time with the lectionary than I have, um, in your journey. Can you explain to me why this passage falls during Lent? I mean, it just seems like last week with the Temptations, totally get that. Great place to
Yeah,
start the Lenten season.
yeah.
But here you have,
I
you know,
it's
Herod wants to kill you, and Jesus is mouthing off.
yeah, and I that's maybe it's foreshadowing Jesus going to the getting killed.
Okay,
It's a little
because of Easter.
foreshadowing.
Okay, okay.
But I mean, you're right. I don't understand
It feels a
how
little odd to
this.
me to be a Lenten passage.
It doesn't seem like one that would cause that naturally causes us to be reflective about our condition, about our need for repentance or our need for revival or revitalization, or new life. It seems very much.
Maybe the second
uh,
half, you could pull that out of there. What you're saying right now, maybe from the
maybe
second half.
maybe.
But yeah, it still feels a little bit like a stretch. Anyway, it's the passage we have this week.
Who are we to
Exactly.
criticize the formers of the lectionary?
That's right.
They're they're right after the people who form the canon as an inspiration. So who are we to
Who are we to criticize?
criticize some divinely ordained process?
So this is
Oh,
our
I'm sorry. That
passage.
was
No,
I
it's
was my tongue
I
was
hear it.
firmly in my cheek in that
I
moment.
gotcha.
Sorry.
No, I felt it. I felt your thumb so far in your cheek that it was in my cheek. Oh, so the Pharisees come to Jesus in the passage. They say, "You got to get out of here. Herod wants to kill you. Go somewhere else." And Jesus responds in kind of a brazen, bold way. He's go tell that fox. He doesn't even call him by name. He calls him a name. You know what I mean? He
Mm,
calls him a
mm-hmm.
fox,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is kind of as a total sidebar. In just a minute, Jesus is going to lament. Maybe that's why this is a Lenten passage. Maybe he's going
Perhaps.
to lament over Jerusalem, and the political state that Jerusalem is in at that time, with her complicity with Rome. I want to make sure that's very clear. This is not an anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish
Right.
passage. Jesus was quite definitely a Jewish man in the first century, and he never in the history that we know of, that we have in the passages in the text, or even the history outside of the sacred text, nowhere do we have any evidence that Jesus ever renounced his Jewishness.
Right.
So even as a solid Jewish Torah observant man in the first century, he's still lamenting over the state of Jerusalem at that moment. And he says, how long, how often I have longed to gather your children as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you are not willing. I just found it kind of fascinating. I don't know if fascinating is the right word. Interesting, curious. I found it curious that Luke, in his authorship, combines these two statements where Jesus is saying, how I've longed to gather you as a hen, protecting the chicks," and then there's Herod. He's the fox in the hen house. You know what I mean? He's that
Mm.
fox.
Mm.
And I don't know. I just, again, it's curious that these are juxtaposed together in Luke's
Mm-hmm.
gospel. What
But
imagery are putting those together?
yeah,
You know,
I think it's clever. I think the fox in the hen house, I think is great imagery, and obviously Herod is the Roman
mm-hmm.
installation of governing Judea, and so you have him, and then you have the and this mixture of Roman Jewish governance taking place, this corrupt
Of the
uh,
temple and the temple state.
political religious system is all, and it's like you said, the fox didn't sneak into the hen house. The fox was ushered in and set right smack in the middle of the hen house.
Fired the
To
old hens, installed new hens, and said,
That's right.
"Let me even build a new hen house for you."
Right, that's right. Yeah, and so I think it's very apropos to that situation. It's a very very good language, and and Jesus is, uh, as far as the synoptics go, Jesus is being, although I mean this is probably one of his more brazen statements, as you said, but he's confronting the corruption directly, and
Mm-hmm.
even speaking against the the ultimate, not the ultimate, but the in that region the ultimate authority, and speaking against him.
So I've been reading, actually rereading. Let me get to the cover here. It's The Politics of Jesus, rediscovering the true revolutionary nature of Jesus' teaching and how they have been corrupted, by Aubrey Hendricks. I read it years ago, but I'm rereading it now because I think I want it to be Renewed Heart Ministries recommended reading for next month.
Hmm.
So we're going through it, and he makes a very compelling argument for just how politically engaged Jesus was,
Hmm.
where Christianity, especially post Constantine, has had a kind of apolitical, we're about getting to
At least if
heaven.
on the record it's apolitical.
Well, yes, even apolitical is political, right? I mean, we
Hmm.
can say that
Yeah.
non-politics is politics.
Hmm. It's yeah.
It's convenient for
So
whatever the status quo is at the
correct,
moment.
correct, correct.
But he makes a strong argument for how, and he's listing example after example after example of how politically engaged Jesus was for the politics of his time.
Hmm.
And Jesus, nor any of the prophets were conservative politically.
Right.
We don't ever have a conservative prophet.
No,
in any of the Hebrew tradition.
never.
But so anyway, makes a strong case. And again, I think I see a little bit of that in this week's passage where Jesus is actually engaging Herod. It's not like John's Jesus where John said to Pilate, remember, or sorry, Jesus said to Pilate, my kingdom is not of this world, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're saying, Jesus, you got to get out of here. Herod wants to kill you. And Jesus turns around and says, you go tell that fox, I'm not going anywhere. I got 3
Yeah.
more days of work to do,
Yep.
and then I'll leave on my terms. When I say, I'll leave when I say I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
leave,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of it's a bold move. This
It
is the
is.
Herod that beheaded John.
Right. Right. Yeah, he's not pulling any. I mean, Jesus is not pulling any figurative punches, and to pull up something that you have talked about in the past is talking about the role of casting out demons in Scripture. It always
Yeah.
carries very much a political undertone, even though there was a belief in the supernatural possession of people by demons. There's that literary uh, tie-in to demons very much representing the political corruption uh, in society, and Jesus's casting out of demons is him symbolically uh, cast confronting and rebuking the corrupt political state.
Right. With Roman possession. I mean, in Luke chapter 8, verse 30, which, I guess this week's reading is Luke 13. Is that right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So 5 chapters earlier was a demoniac story. And it's interesting that the name of the demoniac there was Legion, which was the occupying Roman
mm-hmm,
military unit that kept the region in line. It kept the citizens of that area, or not citizens, they weren't Roman citizens, the inhabitants of that area. It kept them from rebellion or from uprising or insurgency or insurrection.
mm-hmm.
And Luke calls that demon legion, which is the name of that Roman unit.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. This is all again. You look for the story truth in this stuff when the language is too fantastical in our present worldview. And Rome had taken possession of the temple.
Yep.
Rome, Caesar was in charge through the priests
Yep.
in the region. So it was more of a societal exorcism that was needed rather than individuals.
Right. But I think he would. I think there is that from a traditional Jewish understanding of worshiping the one true God
Mm-hmm.
versus worshiping false
Using
gods.
or Caesar.
Uh, Caesar would be a false god,
Mm-hmm.
and so in some ways would represent the demonic,
Sure.
would represent those. A demon is a power opposed and working against the power of God, and Caesar, who calls himself the Son of God and operates very much that way, is operating in opposition to the true God, and so there is,
Yeah. The reign of
anyway.
something or someone else had possessed the land in the place of the reign of God or the kingdom of
Hmm.
God.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he says this statement, and maybe this is why he's so bold. Herod's region is really Galilee. He has distant control over Judea and Jerusalem through the priest there. But he says no prophet can die outside Jerusalem. I'm
Hmm.
not really worried about what Herod can do to me here in Galilee.
Hmm.
I've set my sights on Jerusalem. I'm going to go to Jerusalem. Because that's where he was planning on staging his protest, right? The temple
Right.
protest of
Right.
flipping the tables.
Hmm.
So So yeah, so maybe that's why there's a little bit of courage here. You know, he's got some sense that he's supposed to go to Jerusalem. That whatever's going to happen, the big
Hmm.
thing's going to be in Jerusalem, not out here in the
And of course,
countryside of Galilee.
this could be crafted a little bit literarily because Luke is written,
Totally,
decades after these
totally
events, and so this could be all foreshadowing and things like that, pushing, pointing ahead.
right.
Um,
Rather than
but
historically
nevertheless,
representing.
I think there's it still thematically ties into the broader picture of what Jesus is trying to do, even if yeah, even again, if you would say this is not necessarily factually exactly a timeline or exactly what Jesus was doing at this moment or saying at this moment. It very much is the type of thing that Jesus seems to be doing throughout the synoptics.
Yeah. And before we move on to that second half, I do find it interesting that whatever Jesus was doing, it provoked the desire in Herod to kill him.
Mm,
And the reason I find that interesting is because the traditional explanation or interpretation of Jesus as being only focused on spiritual renewal and spiritual things and
hmm
giving people post-mortem assurance and making sure they know God loves them and all the warm fuzzies. That stuff doesn't get people killed.
No, no,
There was something Jesus was doing that was engaging the politics of his day to the degree that Rome or that Herod felt threatened
that's right.
in the same way that he felt threatened by John.
Yep. Yeah. There was a movement afoot that Jesus was leading, like John was leading, that scared Herod and his whatever power he felt he had. Absolutely. This
Which is kind
is
of it's confronting to me. It's much easier to preach a gospel that's just about getting to heaven. That doesn't threaten anybody.
right.
You know, it doesn't cause anyone to feel at risk as far as those people who are in power or those who benefit from the status quo. But the moment you start talking about things like economic justice and, you
Hmm.
know, racial justice and LGBT justice and gender justice and um, nonviolence,
And
any of those types of things, all of a sudden people get really, it just becomes very polarizing. People either are like,
right.
wow, I'm so glad they're saying that, or I can't believe they're saying that.
That's like Bishop Budd speaking at the National Cathedral. It's she left preaching behind and went to meddling,
Right, exactly, exactly.
and so she is despised on the right and beloved by those who believed that she was doing the right thing and speaking up for the oppressed. And
And so
but
Jesus here is meddling
Jesus is meddling. Absolutely,
to
he's
to the degree that Herod feels threatened enough to express, "Hey, you
yep,
got to get this guy in line, or I'm going to take him out."
yep. And I think when we're looking at this, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think as you're looking at this, Jesus talking about being a hen
Mm-hmm.
gathering chicks, I think you have to look at that. You could take that image and say, "Oh, it's such a beautiful, sweet
Right.
image of a hen." I mean,
A
let's
mother hen with her
let's have a
chicks.
nice closing praise song after have reading that verse and talking about that sweet
It's an
mother
Easter
hen gathering
image.
these like just it's not. And I'll turn it back over to you because I know you want to
No,
talk
no,
about it. So I just
no.
no go. I want you to take over because it's not that.
So yeah, Jesus is saying, um, I'm going to be here for today, tomorrow, and then on the third day I'll reach my goal. And in any case, I have to go to Jerusalem because no prophet can die outside of Jerusalem. And then he launches into this diatribe of Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets, stone those who sent to you, so those sent to you. How often I've longed to gather your children together as hens gather her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Again,
Mm,
as you just said a minute ago, Todd, this was written way after the events that we're talking about here, right?
hmm
So there's a
And even
prophetic tone
probably
that's,
after the desolation of Jerusalem, the destruction
yes.
of the temple.
So there's a prophetic tone that's placed in the mouth of Jesus. But
Hmm
remember, all this stuff was written after the fact that of all these events had taken place, right?
hmm hmm
As if Jesus was looking forward and foretelling them. It's just
Yes.
convenient. The timing of the authorship is convenient.
Yes.
Um, but it's confronting to me because we don't see Jesus here saying again that giving people those warm fuzzies, the feelings of no condemnation or of the assurance of God's love or
Mm,
the assurance that you're going to be in heaven post mortem,
mm,
sometime. What we see is Jesus actually standing in that prophetic tradition that he grew up in, and he's calling out the establishment again for its complicity in the harm that is being done to the marginalized and the vulnerable of his own time. And he's saying, listen, um, the destruction that's coming, I have longed to shield you from that.
hmm
And that makes me wonder what that is. Is he talking about Rome's final crackdown in the
mm,
70s when Jerusalem is destroyed,
hmm
or is he talking about the the unsustainability of the economic
mm,
exploitation and the system that's happening, and how the poor people are going to finally revolt, and how that's
mm,
going to escalate into a Jewish Roman war in the
mm,
late 60s. All of this turmoil where Jesus is saying if we had just followed the justice, the economic justice of the Torah, and returned to the reign of God rather than the reign of Caesar,
mm.
if we had just done that, all of this could have been avoided.
Yeah.
All of this could have been, we could have changed course. We could have misdirected or changed direction rather.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I see him saying here when he said how long I wished. I don't like the traditional explanation that says Jews are bad because they rejected Jesus,
No.
right? I don't think that's what's
No.
happening at all. It's more intrinsic. It's less arbitrary. It's more cause and effect. If you reject, and this is true for every generation and every culture, if
Right.
human beings reject justice, economic exploitation is not sustainable. It will
Right.
reach a breaking point at some
Yep.
point.
Yep.
I mean, before the poor people's revolt, the elites, Josephus actually lists them. The wealthy elites were actually being taken out one by one. They were
hmm
being assassinated by the
hmm
zealots,
mm,
right? And when the poor people finally did win their revolt and take over Jerusalem, from which they launched the Roman war, the war against Rome. The first act they did was go into the vaults and take the debt records of
hmm
everything that was owned, and they forced a year of jubilee where all the debts are effectively canceled because there's no record
Yep.
of them anymore. They've all been burned. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? At some point, that's the pushback.
Right.
That's the context. That's the nuance
Right.
in which all of this is happening this week.
Yep.
It's not the usual Jesus died so you can go to heaven. It's no,
No.
Jesus was confronting a system, and it was that confrontation that alarmed enough people in power that got him put on a cross.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I think there is this. I think in this desire by Jesus to be this hen who gathers the chicks under her wings and 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 protect them and provide them sustenance and be a fierce mother
Mm.
hen for the others for the sake of their surviving and growing and thriving, that even though he wasn't able to accomplish that in his lifetime, and maybe that's why Luke has these words that Jesus was not, could not do it, because he wanted to paint it more as it wasn't Jesus, it wasn't it was the corrupt folks' fault rather than Jesus being stopped in what he was doing. I don't know. I'm not sure what the reasoning would be, but I hear within that longing of Jesus, is I hear the ongoing longing of God
Mm.
to reach out and protect those who are not, and serve those and raise those who have been marginalized and who have been
Mm.
kept down and who have been kept oppressed. That there is this mother hen
Mm-hmm.
desire within God and God's leaders to do this very same thing, and that this is at the heart of any prophet who is trying to lead a movement towards righteousness and justice. Is this just comes through as a very close to the heart statement
Mm-hmm.
um, of what they're about. That it really speaks. It speaks to not just a political agenda, but uh, a heart movement that drives the political actions that Jesus is undertaking. It comes straight from the heart. It's not about power. It's not about his place in the echelons of hierarchy. It's not has nothing to do
Correct.
with that. It's his heart.
Jesus loved people, and it was that love for people in the stories that causes him to make their needs holy.
Mm-hmm.
He makes their physical needs holy. If you think of like the Lord's
That's well
Prayer,
said.
give us this day our daily bread,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what it does is, if we're talking about people's needs, especially those on the margins and the edges, if their needs are holy, then politics becomes holy.
Right.
And I'm not talking about partisan. I'm not talking about trying to gain power or domination. I'm talking about just trying to make sure resources and power are
Yes.
distributed justly enough so that everyone has what they need to thrive.
Right.
That is holy work according to Jesus.
Yes.
Also,
Yes.
this imagery of the hen and the chicks, and going back to the Herod being the fox. This imagery, it illustrates the mother hen protecting her chicks from predators.
Yes.
And that was what Rome was doing. Rome was preying through the priesthood on the vulnerable in his and Jesus' society in their rural communities.
Mm.
So again, I think there's all kinds of applications here.
Yep.
But I love the fact that Jesus is almost defining an area of allyship when we want to protect those who are being harmed from the oppressor, from the abuser. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That
Mm-hmm.
mother hen. I'm thinking about the mother bears, right?
Yes.
Who have that
Yeah.
you go around at pride parades with the t-shirts
Mm-hmm.
that free hugs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds
Mm-hmm.
of things. I dare you to mess with one of my kids type things.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
the imagery that Jesus is painting here of what's in his heart for
Yeah.
those that are being harmed.
That's a great comparison. Great comparison.
So yeah, the rest, if you believe in that kind of thing, it's prophetic. If you don't,
Mm-hmm.
it's after the fact, telling after the fact what would happen. Um, but now your house is left unto you desolate. That's heartbreaking. And maybe that's
It
why
is.
this is a Lenten passage. It's not really great news here. We're coming down to the end. Jesus has been pleading for change. change called the reign of God, the God's just future,
Mm.
and it doesn't look like they're going to be embracing it anytime soon. And so he
Yeah.
makes a declaration here. So now your house is left just the way it is, desolate.
Mm.
You want Caesar? You want the fox? That's your house now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of,
And
I mean, in a very sad way, it's very relatable to where we're at politically right now in the U.S.
hmm
This is what you voted for.
yeah,
This
you've
is
got
what
the
you wanted.
fox.
Yeah. Now we are going to live through the consequences of that.
Right.
Elections
And
matter.
it's not it's people would say, well, then so this is so God is exercising judgment on our nation. No, no,
No, no, it's just cause and
we're
effect.
it's just the consequences of actions that we've done ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Choice,
And
all choices, both good and poor, wise choices and poor choices. All choices have results and consequences.
yeah, so
And it could have been
we're
different.
yeah, wouldn't have been perfect, but it would be
No,
different.
it
It would
perfect
be
is the
different.
enemy of the good.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
But
All right, man. I'm looking through the passage one last
I was
time.
going to say, was there anything in here about about Herod buying a Tesla?
No, Herod was actually on the front lawn of the temple selling one of the priests' Teslas.
Ah,
You
ah,
missed
got
that.
it.
It's a
I
special
missed
chapter
that.
of Luke. It's only in
That's
some translations,
I see. Thank I appreciate.
like the
Man, I'm so glad you.
Apocrypha.
Is, so okay, that's good to know.
So yeah, that's what I've got this week. I am encouraged. In one sense, there's sadness in this passage at the
Yeah.
state in which things are being just. I mean, he's done. He's done all he can. Now it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
what it is, right? There's this resolution to the way things are,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also in the front half of that still a boldness and a courage that's inspiring when Jesus stands up to Herod and says, "I'll leave when I'm ready to."
Yeah.
That's encouraging, at least to me, to see Jesus in that. That it's just as much. What was the statement? Let me read this statement. It's such a good statement. Um, it's from the same book that I'm reading right now, The Politics of Jesus. Fighting for the liberation of those who are oppressed is as important a responsibility of our faith as developing sound personal piety.
Mm.
So, what Jesus is doing here is he's demonstrating this week the courage to stand up to those in power, to not cower, and to say no to them on behalf of and in solidarity with
Yes.
those who are being harmed,
Yes.
which gives
And I
me a
think
lot of it gives me a lot of it doesn't give me conviction in that sense, but it does convict me that now more than ever, as a follower of Jesus, I need to not be putting my head in the sand.
yeah. And and being willing to talk some trash when you have the chance to talk some trash and say I'm not going anywhere.
This
I'm
is not a
continuing
meek
to
and
do.
mild Jesus this week.
No, and again, and I say talk trash in the context of what Jesus did, which is no, I'm not giving up the fight for these people, no matter what this so and so is doing and saying. I'm not giving up the fight. And then even when, like, like some people have done who have lost their jobs, their government
Mm-hmm.
jobs within the government downsizing and stuff, they go out defiant
Yeah.
and show and show the 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 ridiculousness of
Hmm.
what is taking place, and what the government is losing in the process of doing what it's doing.
And in this
Um,
context, that's Christ-like.
that's exactly right.
It's a
That
holy
is,
work.
it is exposing
Hmm.
the oppression. It is exposing the corruption. It is exposing those things for everybody to see. And whether you're standing up to it or whether you're going down in flames, you're 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 taking you're taking a piece of the power with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because you're going to make sure everybody sees what kind of garbage is being done, so
To
that
use the vernacular, go tell that fox that you're all out of foxes.
exactly, that's well said. Very punny
All right,
and
man. Anything else this week?
prophetic.
Did you
I
say prophetic or pathetic?
no, prophetic. It's
Prophetic. Oh, because I was
punny and
talking when you said
prophetic.
it, so in my earphones I heard pathetic.
No. There's there's other things about you that are pathetic, but those words were prophetic. So I like that. But anyway, tell us about what's happening with Renewed Heart Ministries.
New Heart Ministries, same old, same old. We're there online. Actually, there is something new to say. We're about to get a website refresh. We're about to get a brand new website. Um, Hopefully, better functionality, better relationships with social media, those types of things. Same free resources will be available. We're not taking anything away. It'll all still be there. But be looking for that in the next couple weeks. Also, if you're unfamiliar with Renewed Heart Ministries, we are a nonprofit ministry that is organization that helps people find the intersection. We're just passionate about helping people find the intersection of their faith and engaging social justice, whatever area of social justice you feel passionate about. And for those of you out there that are supporting Renewed Heart Ministries work, everything we do is for free. We're directly dependent on those who financially support our work. And those of you out there who are supporting us, thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't do what we do without you. If you would like to join them in supporting Renewed Heart Ministries, you can do so by going to renewedheartministries.com and clicking donate. Todd, you have some news for us this week. Things have shifted for you again. You got
Yeah.
any updates? Anything to tell us?
Well, I'll be quick. I've started as a hospice chaplain, doing just begun working this week in a neighboring parish. We live in Louisiana, so they're not counties; they're parishes. And so, in a neighboring parish, I am working at a hospice agency, and just got started with that this week. Very excited about that. And so I'll be doing that during my daytime hours, and still available nights and weekends for doing coaching through tjlcc.com. So, anyway, with that, we are so glad that you guys joined us. We got a lot of comments, a lot meaning three, but for us, that was a lot. We really liked the feedback and the
Mm-hmm.
comments and the commentary that you guys give on the YouTube page. Please keep that up. Love to hear from you. And we hope your Lenten journey continues to go well as you continue to seek righteousness and justice in your neighborhood.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week.